You really are what you eat. Not literally, but nutrition impacts all aspects of your health and well-being. From mental health to physical health, a well-balanced diet is key to living a healthy life. It protects you against many chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, or cancer, as well as impacts your mood and productivity. A healthy diet is composed of a combination of different foods. These include staples like cereal, so wheat, barley, rye, and rice, or starchy roots like potatoes and yams, as well as legumes like lentils and beans, fruits and vegetables, and foods from animal sources like meat, fish, eggs, and milk. From a scientific perspective, it is important to have a healthy, balanced diet to make sure your body has everything it needs to function. It's important to include a variety of different vegetables in your diet because different types of vegetables have different combinations of amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks for proteins, and if you don't have enough of a certain amino acid, you would end up with a deficit of a specific protein.
Perfect, thank you. So eating a variety of foods and consuming less salt, sugars, saturated fats, and industrially produced trans fats are essential for a healthy diet. So some recommendations for a healthy diet include eating plenty of vegetables and fruit, since they are a great source of vitamins, minerals, dietary fibers, plant protein, and antioxidants. So people with diets rich in vegetables and fruits have a significantly lower risk of obesity, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. There's also eating less fat. So fats and oils and concentrated sources of energy, like eating too much in particular, are wrong kinds of fat. So like saturated and industrially produced trans fats can increase the risk of heart disease and stroke. Using unsaturated vegetable oil, for example, like olive, soy, sunflower, or corn oil, rather than animal fats or oils high in saturated fats, for example, butter, lard, coconut, or palm oil, will help you consume healthier fats. Next, there is limit intake of sugars. So for a healthy diet, sugars should represent less than 10% of your total energy intake. So reducing even further under 5% has additionally have more benefits on your health. So choosing fresh fruits instead of sweet snacks such as cookies, cakes, and chocolate help reduce the consumption of sugars. So limiting intake of soft drinks as well, so soda and drinks high in sugars. For example, you are consuming empty calories. That also includes juices, syrups, flavored milks, yogurt drinks. So those also help reduce the intake of sugars if you reduce the amount of those drinks that you consume. So next we have reducing salt intake. So keeping your salt intake lower helps prevent hypertension and reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke. In the adult population, limiting the amount of salt and high sodium condiments such as soy sauce, fish sauce when cooking and preparing food helps reduce salt intake. So now to touch on diabetes, which is one of the larger nutrition-related diseases, it is a condition that affects the way the body processes food for energy. So the pancreas, which is responsible for secreting the hormone insulin, is compromised in diabetes. Insulin is in charge of helping glucose get absorbed into the cells. Without it, the glucose produces from the food we eat, and that would just stay in the blood.
There are 3 different types of diabetes, each with their different struggles. Type 1 diabetes can develop at any age, but occurs more frequently in children and adolescents. When you have type 1 diabetes, your body produces very little to no insulin, and that means that you need daily insulin injections to help maintain your blood glucose levels. Type 2 diabetes is more common in adults and accounts for about 90% of all diabetic cases. When you have type 2 diabetes, your body does not make good use of the insulin that it does produce. The typical type 2 diabetes treatment is a healthy lifestyle, including increased physical activity and a healthy diet. However, over time, most people with type 2 diabetes will require oral drugs and/or insulin to help maintain their blood glucose levels. Gestational diabetes is a type of diabetes that consists of high blood glucose levels during pregnancy and is associated with complications to both the mother and the child. Gestational diabetes usually disappears after pregnancy, but women affected and their children are at increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes later in life. Diabetics have to make nutrition that much more of a priority in their daily lives because the repercussions of not having a healthy diet are severe.
Hi everyone, my name's Dan. I'm a first-year medical student at NOSTM. I was a camper in 10th grade. I'm really excited to be here to give you guys this presentation. So we'll be speaking about the importance of nutrition in diabetes prevention and management. And we have a registered dietitian, Suzanne Mcguire, here with us today. Suzanne, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm really happy to be here as well. So I've been working as a dietitian for over 25 years, and I hope that you'll enjoy this talk. So the importance of nutrition in diabetes prevention and management. So we're going to work towards recognizing the role of nutrition and nutrition therapy in diabetes prevention and management. And what better way to do that than to go through a case study? So for some of you, you may or may not remember The Sopranos. It was a very popular show, and Tony, who's the guy in the upper left-hand corner, is our patient, and his wife, Carmela, is beside him on the lower frame. And then we see his coworkers and his family sitting at the dinner table with some regular Coca-Cola and some takeout food. And so we're going to review all that and see how we can help Tony manage his diabetes. All right, so for the first part of the case study, we've got the New Canada Food Guide here on the left, and then this is a description in the blue of what Tony's day looks like. So in a 24-hour period, he starts his day around 7:30 in the morning. He eats in the car. And he has coffee with cream and sugar. It's a large one, so there's lots of cream and sugar. And then he has a banana nut muffin. Lunchtime, about 5 hours later, he has a restaurant lunch. And so it's a sandwich with some meat and cheese and a couple slices of bread. And then he drinks a Pepsi. On Fridays, he has a buffet lunch. So, you know, he picks probably a number of different items from the buffet. And then at 6, he has his dinner at home, and that's looking a bit better there, but his portions are, you know, big enough. So he's got 1.5 cups of white rice, some broccoli, salmon, and a couple of glasses of wine. And then in the evening, he has some air popped popcorn, about 4 cups. So this is a really good exercise to do with patients, because you kind of need a starting point to know, you know, what are they eating? Is their diet perfect, or is there any improvements to do? The doctor has mentioned to Tony, and Tony is interested to reduce his weight, and that usually does a world of good for diabetes. So even like a 1 pound weight loss can do a big improvement for his blood sugars. And he'd like to also work on lifestyle changes. So he's hoping to not have too many medications to start. So the way that he's going to know whether he is making some progress is he's going to check his hemoglobin A1C. So all that is just a measure of the blood sugars over the last 3 months. So it will give you kind of like it's sort of an average of where the blood sugar has been for the past 3 months, because the hemoglobin molecule will turn over every 3 months. So for the first objective, we're going to identify some key food sources and the factors that influence the metabolism of the blood sugar and its regulation. So here we see some of the meals that Tony has. So if you look closely, there's quite a lot of cheese. There's a lot of fried foods, high fat, basically bottom line. And so what that does is, when we have things that are higher in fat, it stays in our stomach longer. So for example, if we drink a glass of juice, the blood sugar is going to go up within about 10 minutes because there's nothing to mulch down. It's just, all good to be absorbed. If you have an orange, on the other hand, then it's going to take a little bit of time to break it down, and then your blood sugar is going to go up maybe after 30 minutes, an hour. And then if you have something like that has the protein here, like the meat and cheese and lots of fat, like the French fries and loads of cheese, that's going to take more like 4 or 5 hours to digest in the stomach and put the blood sugars up. So sometimes some of the patients will think that, oh, I had this ginormous meal, but big buffet, and my blood sugars a couple hours after that were really good. And so, then if they check, say, if the meal was at supper time, if they check before bedtime, then that's when they usually see that the blood sugar's gone up to maybe over 20, which is really, really high. All right. So what we would start to sort of discuss with clients would be to explain the glycemic index and try to sort of get the cook, or in this case, Carmela, the wife, and Tony, to kind of see if they can just tweak their diet and pick some lower glycemic index foods, and maybe start to look at the blood sugar response if, say, he also decreases his fat intake. So we have some questions just to sort of have you follow along or play along. This is a talk that we've adapted from another one, but the poll question was asking if equal amounts of carbohydrates produce different amount of glycemic response. And the answer would be yes, because of the different glycemic indexes of different foods, even though they have the same amount of carbohydrate. So the glycemic index is just a tool that you can find at the Diabetes Canada website. And it just sort of categorizes the food in different groupings. So when you have diabetes, you want to try to have more low glycemic index foods. So that's why it's associated with like the green light or go for traffic lights. And then it doesn't mean you can never have high glycemic index foods or medium glycemic index foods, but maybe try to have them in smaller amounts and maybe less often to optimize the blood sugars. Or even if you don't have diabetes, but you have a predisposition because maybe of a family history, then you can maybe delay diabetes from actually happening. So here we're just showing our digestive system, and it's just showing that the higher glycemic index foods are absorbed faster in the first part of the bowel, right after they exit the stomach, whereas the lower glycemic index foods are more absorbed throughout the bowels, like more in a gradual sense. And so usually people will feel better if their blood sugars are more like in a same range, like say between 5 and 10, as opposed to if they, before they eat, they're at 5 and then they shoot right up to 20 after eating because they've absorbed everything so fast. So that's what we're just trying to describe there. Another poll question here. So the glycemic index is the same as glycemic response. And that is false because the glycemic response will be affected by things like the fat or the protein content or even the fiber content. So all these sort of intricacies will matter to determine what your blood sugar is going to end up at. Okay, so the glycemic index is one component of the nutrition medical management. It's not the only thing, but it is a very important player. And so we want to combine that with Canada's food guide and start patients off with the plate method and the just the basics handout, which again can be found at the Diabetes Canada website. So if we start sometimes with low glycemic index diets, right off the bat, where we've got the traffic light kind of categorization of the food, sometimes it's too much for clients. They're already feeling a little bit threatened because we're asking them to change what they're eating and to think about what they're picking to eat, as opposed to what most people do most days is just, okay, I feel like coffee, I'm going to have a coffee, or I feel like a toast and eggs, and that's what I'm going to have. Whereas when you are trying to manage the blood sugars or prevent diabetes, it's a constant weight on you that you're trying to kind of make sense of what would be best, what would affect your blood sugar the best. All right, and so we've also included some recipes, a couple that are particularly enjoyable, and I find they look really colorful and appealing. And so the first one, the lemon chicken with pasta, and the second one is top of the morning lentil frittata. And both of these would be some good choices for people that are trying to have more managed blood sugars. So we can start with developing some SMART goals. So for example, as you saw in the earlier slide, Tony and his family were having some takeout foods. And so traditionally, restaurant meals are much higher in salt and sugar and in fat, and they don't have always that much vegetables or fiber. So if you can cook at home, it doesn't have to be fancy. You're going to get more of what you want and less of what you don't want. And then another important key concept would be to space out your carbohydrates and your meals. And then the other trick is to try to increase your daily exercise with things that you enjoy doing. If you don't like doing yoga, don't do yoga. If you enjoy walking your dog, walk your dog. It's something that you're going to do. And you don't have to start off doing 7 days a week of, an hour a day. You can certainly start, and we'll see with the SMART goals, but something that is measurable. So it could be 5 days, maybe 5 minutes, 1 day a week. And then the week after, you might increase to 2 days a week at just 5 minutes. So whatever is realistic and manageable for you and that you're going to have success with, and you'll see the results. That's kind of the neat thing with diabetes is the blood sugars, as long as you're curious and you check them, they will give you feedback, so when you check your blood sugar after having a toast, it'll tell you a certain number. And then if you check your blood sugar after having cornflakes, it'll give you another number. And so you'll learn from that what works and what doesn't work so good for you. And the same with if you do exercise, you'll see that the blood sugar after you do it will be lower. And so you'll learn how to help with exercise to control the sugars. So just a quick SMART goal review. You want to make sure that they're specific. So a lot of patients, for example, that I would see would come and say, I'd like to lose weight. And it's like, okay, so, all right, how much weight would you like to lose? And how do you think you could, what do you think you could do to achieve that? So they might specify more and say that I want to lose maybe 5 pounds at the end of June. And that way, when you get to the end of June and you weigh yourself, then you'll know if you reached it or not. And if it's someone that, you know, is very sedentary or has very many health issues, and they're not able to walk, and you know, they have to have maybe restaurant meals because they're not able to stand or make their meals, that is going to be really tough for them to achieve 5 pounds in 1 month. So, you know, there's no defined answer that is right. It's whatever is going to work for the person. So we might sort of make it more realistic by saying, okay, well, to do that, I'm going to have to maybe switch having fries and have a salad instead with my dinner meal, and see if that's possible, you know, and then we would try to make some plans and ideas of how to do that. So that's just an example, you know, just a common one. Now, I just want to go over this quick slide because a lot of people really don't realize how difficult it is to manage blood sugars, because it's not as simple as you have, you know, ice cream, your blood sugar goes high. You have broccoli, your blood sugar doesn't go high. There are so many other factors that will affect what your blood sugar is going to do. So, of course, the food, you know, that is, of course, a very logical one. But if we go to the right-hand side in the yellow column, you'll see that even stress and sleep, you know, not getting enough sleep or getting too much sleep, or getting interrupted sleep, or being stressed about a big exam the next day or something like that. Say that it's allergy season, or if you're maybe going through your time of the month, or if you are a smoker, you know, so those all affect the blood sugars, same as medications. So that's more a logical one, I guess, like the food and activity, you know, and then the environmental ones, like if you've had a sunburn, if you're in a different altitude area. And then the last little category is just if you check your blood sugars or not, you know, so usually when you check and you see that you have high blood sugars, you might say, oh, okay, so instead of having a couple of cups of spaghetti tonight, maybe I'll just have half of that, you know. But somebody that doesn't check, and that's quite common because often people have had a bad experience that they check and it's always high, so they don't want to know anymore. So, you know, it's really just to try and be curious and try to use the information from the blood sugar testing to help you get better results. All right, and so I always say that planning is a real key to getting a improved diet or nutrition. And so I know it does require a bit of investment in time, but honestly, it will save you time down the road. You know, if you can organize your fridge and your cupboards and you have on hand what you plan to make for the week, it's going to be a big load off, and you won't be panicking, you know, at supper time. Oh, what can I make, you know, now? And you're starving, and then you just decide to pick up the phone and order out, you know. So if you like, there are a number of resources online through Dietitians of Canada. So you could definitely just type in unlockfood.ca, and you can get some ideas there. There's like recipes and different meal plans, and you can punch in like what you're trying to achieve and what your focus is. And so don't be afraid to poke around in there. And so I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much for that insight. I really appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time, of course, to give this presentation. One question I might have that's a bit unrelated specific to this topic, but for those that might be interested, could you maybe speak to the pathway to becoming a dietitian?
Sure. So there's a few different pathways. For myself, I did a bachelor at the University of Moncton in New Brunswick. So it's usually a 4-year university degree. The internship is a 1-year placement with experienced dietitians after your bachelor. But many of the programs now, including the University of Moncton one, have integrated the internship. So that's great because you can do it, say right after your year of university, like in the summertime. And so you save like on the extra year. Because there's a very high shortage of these internships, and it's very difficult to be accepted. The other route that people can do is do a master's, or there are also some combined internship and masters that you can do through, like, for example, at McMaster's University. So again, you could go to the Dietitians of Canada website. You could go to the College of Dietitian website and poke around in there, and I'm sure that you would get your answers.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, at GetMed. I'm glad you could join me today for the cooking workshop. My name is Patrick Gagnon. I'm a bilingual student at Laurentian University. So today my group and I wanted to showcase a recipe off of the cooking workshop, or the cookbook that we're making for Camp Med. We're going to be sending a link to the cookbook, probably include a link at the end of the video, as well as send out an email to everyone who signed up for this workshop. So today we're going to be making tofu teriyaki. So it's basically just chicken teriyaki with but instead substituted with tofu as a vegan alternative. Now, the reason we decided for tofu is because there's still such a stigma behind it. It's very bland, it doesn't look very appetizing, but if you prepare it right, use the right ingredients, you can make something very, very tasty with it, and it's very healthy for you as well, So now we're going to get started. So I'm going to start off by preparing the tofu. So to do that, we're just going to cut it into 1-inch strips. So you can see I already did that, right? So 1 inch, this. I just cut it like this first, and then in half, okay? Now, after that, what you're gonna do with the tofu is you're gonna put it in between 2 baking sheets that are lined with napkins or paper, whatever you use to absorb tofu, the water from the tofu. So as you can see, I have already cut tofu, okay? That has a bottom layer of napkin or whatever you need. Put a layer on top, other baking sheet on top, and then what you're going to want to do is get something that's pretty heavy. Just put it right on top so that it extracts all the moisture from the tofu and makes it so that it doesn't burn in the pan. Because what you want is for the tofu to get a nice golden brown color in the pan. And if you don't get all the moisture out, what's going to happen is it's actually going to stick to the pan, and you're going to kind of like just destroy the tofu, and it won't be very appetizing. Okay. The teriyaki part of the tofu teriyaki. So all we're going to need for the teriyaki sauce and glaze is rice vinegar, sesame oil, soy sauce, sriracha, and honey. Okay? So first things first, we are going to pour out half a cup of soy sauce. We've got this right here. We're gonna pour out half a cup. There you go. Throw that in there. Then we're gonna go for 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm actually gonna go for 3 because the recipe asks for a little bit of brown sugar, but a healthy alternative to sugar is just honey. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more. 1, 2, 3. I might go even 4. I'm gonna go 4. Yeah, I'm gonna go 4. Okay, so 4 tablespoons of honey. Throw that in there. Okay, now what we're gonna go for? Now we're gonna go for 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Take this. Use the same tablespoon. 1, 2. Okay. Then we're gonna go for the water. So the last ingredient is actually water. So we're gonna need a 1/4 cup of water. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Anthony, you're probably gonna wanna mute this just because it's very, very loud. Depends. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so a 1/4 cup of water. Throw that in there. And then what we're gonna do is just mix it nice and proper until all the honey is dissolved and mixed and incorporated with the soy sauce, with the rice vinegar, and everything's one. Now the next step after that, the tofu is, the water from the tofu has been pressed for at least 30 minutes pressed. We're gonna grab our pan, we're gonna put olive oil or any pretty much vegetable oil that you have, put in the sesame oil, then we're going to cook the tofu until it's golden brown. We're gonna flip it, both sides are golden brown. Then we're gonna put in the sauce and we're gonna let it reduce until it becomes a glaze. You'll see. Okay, so now just to continue where we left off, we're gonna actually be doing the cooking now. So I'm gonna use canola oil, but you can use any vegetable oil that you have. I'm just gonna put enough to cover the bottom. I preheat the pan to like medium high about. I put quite a bit of oil, that's fine. Then you're gonna mix it with some sesame oil. Boom, boom, boom. Perfect. There you go, swirl it around a little bit. Make sure it's nice and coated. Make sure your pan's nice and coated. Then you're just gonna grab your tofu, put it in. You want to make sure all your tofu's in there. It's gonna be pretty tight, but you should be able to make it all. Give it a quick shake so it doesn't stick. I like to use 2 forks. It makes it a lot easier to kind of just look underneath it, and that would be perfect. So I'm just going to give you guys kind of an explanation why we wanted to do this. Basically, we wanted to promote healthy eating and healthy habits because a lot of people don't know this, but since 2009, there's been a 42% increase in people with diabetes, type 1 and type 2. So, and the best and easiest way to manage your diabetes is through your diet. So, we wanted to show how easy it is to make meals that are both healthy, cheap, and easy to make. So let's check these out there. We want it to be golden brown. You can see already it's very, very close. Just make sure they're very close, almost there. Put it back around. I'll let it go for a little bit. Make sure it doesn't stick. You can see that because I took out a lot of the moisture and the pan's at a pretty hot temperature, it doesn't stick to the pan. It really, like, I can just shake it a little bit and it goes right in. And it moves perfectly. We're gonna keep going for a little bit. And that should be good. Yeah. All of them should be golden brown. Okay. Now, as soon as the bottom becomes golden brown, we're going to put our sauce in, our teriyaki sauce in. So this is our teriyaki sauce that we made earlier. I mixed it up with everything, and now it's nicely incorporated and perfect to go. Okay, now let's check the bottom. Bottom's almost there. We can leave it going for a little bit more. It's gonna keep cooking even with the sauce, so I'm gonna put it in right now. Make sure it's all coated all around. Now, the extent that you want it reduced really depends on the individual. Some people want it to be more, like a lot more reduced. Some people want more of a sauce. I like having the sauce, so I'm going to reduce it a little less than usual. So I'll do this. Going. You can also add a little bit of cornstarch, which that's going to help to thicken it up. I'm going to let it run for a little bit. I'm going to cover it for a little bit too. That's going to really give it a chance to reduce as you want it. So you could have this just as is, but you can also have it with, rice. That's what I'm choosing to make it with. I'm having it with rice right now, or a little salad. Anything you really want as just to accompany it. Rice is really easy to make. It's just you put in twice the amount of rice in water. I'll do that there so it's not too foggy. Okay. And then you leave it going in just use a rice cooker. It's so much easier than doing it on the stove. If you know how to do it on the stove, do it on the stove. But a rice cooker does makes the rice as good as a rice cooker, or as the stove. Sorry. Yeah. You want to check up on it every once in a while just to see how far it is in its reduction. It's a really easy recipe to make, right? There's not much involved in it. I just put in the tofu, checked up on it. When it was brown, I flipped it, When I put in the sauce, I just leave it. You know, even the prep work, it was, you know, you just cut your tofu, let the moisture drain out with a bit of weight between 2 baking sheets, and then just put in all the sauce right into a bowl, and that's about it. So that's why I really like making this. I do this often. Plus tofu and teriyaki is really good, and you can see it's already starting to reduce. I like keeping it at the 6.5 because it lets it simmer. Almost boiling, but this is simmer right now. It's simmering, so I'll go on for a couple more minutes there. Check up on it. Yeah, nice. Look at that. Really starting to thicken up. You can use a spoon. If you want to check how thick the sauce is, you can use a spoon and kind of just dab the back of it. And you can see that it's coating. It's hard to see in the camera there, but you can see it's coating the back of the spoon, right? So that's how you check to see how thick it is. It's not too bad. I'm gonna let it go for a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. And you know, yeah, I'm gonna call it there. That's all be good. Turn off the heat. And hopefully it looks good on the camera there. That's it. I'll be back with some better shots. So this is going to be the end product. It's a tofu teriyaki. It's really easy to make, cheap, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my cooking workshop. My team and I really thank you for everything, and we're going to add a link to the cookbook at the end of this presentation. Thank you so much. Take care.
Hello everyone. Today we are Okay, wait. No, keep it. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to another exciting Camp Med session. Today we will be cooking, and we're going to be making a Thai chicken and tofu curry. So we have everything laid out, and this is a great meal that I and some of my friends in school have been making. And it's really easy to make, and also kind of healthy just with the amount of vegetables that you get, and with the option of having chicken or tofu in it. So today we opted actually to make with chicken and tofu. And we've got our soup on the stove ready to go. So with this curry, you can either be making it in a pot or you can be making it in the slow cooker. I kind of like it in the slow cooker just because for us, now that we're online with school, during lunch you can quickly put it together and then you can have a great dinner for later. So we got it all cooked up, or all cut up here for the most part. We'll do some cutting after, but the main ingredients are a green curry paste, and we'll just show you there. So this green curry paste is one of my favorites. I think one of the best places to get it is probably Superstore if you have it, but you can probably find it some other places. It's a green curry here, but you can also find it in a red curry in the grocery store as well. The other thing might sound a little bit weird, but we're also going to be adding some peanut butter to the curry, and I think, I mean, I don't really know why, that's just what the recipe calls for, but it does sweeten it up a little bit and it does make it a little bit creamier, so it is really good. And then we also have our chicken. So the way we cooked the chicken was just, we boiled it on the stove, and when you boil it, it really makes it really easy to spread apart so that we can shred it. So basically we boiled it and then shredded the chicken. And then we also have a cut up onion, and you can cut up the onion as in, I would say probably like a loony or a toonie size to be Canadian. And then we also cut up some peppers as well. We've got our tofu here. In terms of tofu, I never really liked tofu before. I know Patrick also has tofu, so we're really promoting tofu in these sessions. But really it is good, and I would say the best type, if you're new to tofu, would be an extra firm, and it's really good just to supplement the chicken there. The other thing that we don't have right here, but we'll get after, is our coconut milk that we'll add for the soup. Well, folks, we actually forgot the coconut milk, so we had to drive to the store to get more. So here is the coconut milk. All right, so as I was saying before, maybe if the cameraman just comes over here. So we've got 6 cups of chicken broth in here. And as I was saying before, again, you could either put this on a pot, or you could do a slow cooker. We're using a pressure cooker, but it also is a slow cooker, I think. So yeah, really whatever you want, but we have 6 cups of chicken broth in there. So let's add in all of our vegetables there. A little bit of a plunk there. And again, so that was 2 peppers and 1 medium to large size onion. All right. We'll add in the rest of that. Well, folks, now that we've got all our peppers in there, we'll be able to add in the rest of the ingredients. So we have the tofu, and I cut up them in about 1 inch by 1 inch squares, but whatever size you want is good. So we'll just add those into the soup there now, like that. Have the rest. And then we also have the chicken that we'll add in there as well. Throw that in. Alright, so yeah, it's definitely getting very full, and there's a lot in there. And then again, so we have the coconut milk, so we'll just add that in there. So again, we got 6 cups of chicken broth, and the chicken broth, I guess we didn't really talk much about that, but you can get it in the powdered form, or you can get it in a liquid form, and either should work. And just follow the instructions on there for how many cups. So I'll just add in the coconut milk. Like that. And then with the Thai sauce, Thai curry paste, the green one is a little bit hotter than the red one. There's no real recipe for how much you need to put in, but I would say maybe put in about 2 or 3 tablespoons. The more you put in, the spicier it's going to be. So it's kind of your preference. And generally it comes in this bag type of thing, so I'll just kind of squeeze it in there. So just like that. It doesn't really look that good, but once you mix it all up, it'll look a lot better. And then again, the last thing that's maybe a little bit weird, but we'll add about a couple tablespoons of peanut butter in there. So I'd say even like just a big kind of spoonful, that's probably enough, like that. And we'll just kind of add it in there, and then I'll stir it all in. So again, if you're gonna use a slow cooker, basically everything's cooked, right? Because we've already cooked the chicken. The only thing that we're really waiting on is just to kind of soften up the vegetables, the peppers and the onions. So if you're using a slow cooker, just keep it going until everything kind of softens up a little bit. If you're using just on the stove, again, just kind of use that, just kind of monitor the peppers to get them a little bit softer, and then you should be good as long as the chicken's cooked. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of keep mixing this up a little bit, and then we'll get this started and we'll show you the end result, folks. The soup is finished cooking and we have a delicious chicken and tofu Thai curry. It's very good. And one thing that we haven't made today is some rice, but that's another great thing that would complement this soup very well. Well, folks, that's it for our cooking session. I hope you have a great summer, and we'll hopefully see you sometime in person. Bye for now.